Turned it into 2.3, yes? We started pulling out all of our factoring methods and reviewing them. And so today I want to continue. We're going to do some more factoring, but we're going to talk about what it means to use factoring to solve equations. So if you look up at the top of the page that we did, they were just expressions when we were asked to factor them, right? There was no equal signs, no equations. Well, when you turn the page, they're going to become equations. And so it's going to be still factoring, but then how do we use factoring to solve is the direction we're headed with this lesson. So we're starting at the bottom of the front page there. And it talks about relating factors to zeros of a function. So this graph right here, y equals x squared plus 2x minus 8, is shown by this graph, this equation, okay, or this equation is shown by this graph. Now the question is, how do the zeros, it's a little bit of vocabulary here, how do the zeros of the function relate to the factors of the expression? Okay, so in order to answer that, I would say we need to probably factor. So let's find what are the factors of, what is it, x squared plus 2x minus 8. Okay, dig deep, although this might be more at the top. You might not have to dig too deep. How do we factor this one?
Find the product and so.
Okay, product of -8 and a sum of 2. What works? What multiplies to be -8 and adds to be 2?
4 -2.
Okay, 4 -2. How do I set up these factors? My factors are going to be what? 2 parentheses. X squared breaks into x and x. And one of them is x plus 4. One of them is x minus 2. Okay. What do you see on the graph?
Point at 0 or -4, 0, point at 2, 0.
Okay, there's a point at -4, 0 and 2, 0. And those specific points are what? What do we call those? Where are they located?
The x-axis.
They're on the x-axis, so those are what we would call our x-intercepts. So we have x-intercepts at -4, 0 and 2, 0. Okay. What's the connection here, guys?
It's the same as when you factored it, but the signs are switched.
Okay, same numbers as the factoring, but the signs are the opposite. Okay.
Does it matter?
About the signs?
Yeah.
Yes, it does matter.
You can't have 2 and a negative or positive 4. -2, positive 4.
There is a difference. Yes, it does matter. So, if we think about the equation, y equals x squared plus 2x minus 8, which is what is graphed here, yes? Then we know that factors into the y equals x plus 4 and x minus 2. Now, the idea here is that if we take our different x-intercepts, okay? So if we take our different x-intercepts, so for instance, if I use x equals -4 as the first one, yes? If I use x equals -4 and I put that into the equation, what happens? I'm going to get y equals -4 plus 4 and -4 minus 2. And what does that become there? Right? -4 plus 4 is 0. -4 times -2 is -6. 0 times anything is 0. What if I put the other one in? And I promise, there's a point I'm trying to make here. If I put, what is it, x equals 2 in? So then it's y equals 2 plus 4, 2 minus 2. So if I put 2 in for x, what do we get? 2 plus 4 is 6. 2 minus 2 is 0, and 6 times 0 is 0, yes? Okay. The point I'm trying to make here, guys, okay, when we put those values in, when we put -4 and we put 2 in, those both produced the y values of 0, right? So 2 things, okay? We talked about those being called our x-intercepts, so you shouldn't have been surprised that they came out that way. They're also called the zeros, okay? So the vocabulary that you need to be familiar with, and what they're going to ask you today is they're going to ask you to find your zeros, okay? And that's a vocab word you might see on something like PSAT or something that you guys have coming up, okay, is to find your zeros. So the zeros are x equals -4 and 2. And realize we're going to get those because they are the opposite signs here, right? When we go on to and do our actual solving, the idea is going to be we're going to be factoring, and then we're going to be setting each part equal to 0 to find those x-intercepts or zeros. Okay? So going forward, I need you to know what a zero is. And I'm going to write it in 2 ways. It's an x value that makes y equals 0. And it also is the x-intercept. Okay? So it's the x value that makes y equals 0. It's also the x-intercept. Okay, so lock that vocab word in, zeros, because we will need that. And I don't want you in homework, on a quiz, on a test, on something like PSAT being, I don't know what that is, because it's easy to find if you know what it is. Okay. Let's go do some solving.
Yay! I have all these read done.
Thank you, Patrick.
I feel like that was the reaction we were looking for.
This is actually what you want.
Not really the reaction I was expecting, but I'll gladly take it. Okay, so we're going to use the zero product property. Okay, zero product property, you get the fancy version here. Okay, states that if a product of real number factors is 0, then at least one of the factors must be 0. In the case of two factors, if a times b equals 0, then either a equals 0 or b equals 0, or both. The short of it is, if two numbers multiply to equal 0, what do you know about one of them?
0.
One of them has to be 0, right? The only way you can multiply to get 0 is if one of them is 0. So we're going to use that idea by factoring and then setting each factor equal to 0. Okay? Now, if my directions say solve the equations by factoring, what's got to be the first step before I factor these equations?
They multiply 2 and they add 2.
Yes, but I don't want to do that with this one quite yet. What's in the way there, kind of?
The x.
No. What do we have in this equation that we didn't have when we were just factoring on Friday?
Sign.
We have an equal sign, yes. Right? When we factor, I want it in that form of x squared plus bx plus c. Do I want an equals in the middle?
No.
No. So what do I need to do to this equation?
Subtract 42.
Subtract the 42 in an effort to make my equation equal 0. First step has to be make your equation equal to 0. In this case, that does mean subtracting 42. So, in that case, I'm going to have x squared plus x minus 42 equals 0. How do I factor?
Don't do that.
Go ahead, Logan.
7 and -6.
7 and -6 because they multiply to be what?
Negative 42.
Negative 42. Yep. and they add to be a positive 1 there. Okay? Do I need to make the list of values? Okay? You know, start, and this is where a calculator by your side can be helpful, right? If you can't find that pair, figure them out. Okay, so x squared is x and x. I was told positive 7 and minus 6. And my equation still equals 0. Okay? Now, on Friday we were done. It said factor, we were done. If your homework says factor and there's no equal sign, you're done right here. But I wasn't told to factor, I was told to solve. Okay, this is where zero product property comes in. I have two factors, x plus 7, x minus 6, that multiply to equal 0. What do we know?
That's an X.
Not just x equal to 0, but the entire factor. Okay, so what I know is that either x plus 7 has to equal 0, or x minus 6 has to equal 0. Or who knows, maybe both do. So if we solve, okay, so I say h part equals 0. If it says x plus 7, what are we going to do? Subtract 7 and you get negative 7. If it says x minus 6, I'm going to add 6 and we're going to get x equals 6. Okay. And guess what? We have x equals a value. Technically, x equals 2 values. We're done. Okay. If I had to guess off the top of my head, when it says to solve, okay, so when you have an equal sign in your problem and you're solving, you're going to want to go this far. You're probably just going to be typing in your box negative 7, comma 6. That would be my guess. Number, comma, number. Okay. Now, do you see why there's opposite signs? Okay. Those are my factors. Don't stop there and say, oh, 7 and negative 6 are my answers. No, those are your factors. Go one more step and solve. Okay. Ready for the next one? Okay. 2x squared equals negative 9x plus 5. What's got to be our first step here?
You have to either subtract the 2x squared or just overachieve it, add the 9x and subtract the 5.
Okay. So, doesn't matter which direction, well, technically it doesn't matter which direction we take. Both are good directions. Either direction, Paul is having us make the equation equal to 0. Yes? Now, I know our next step is going to be factoring. Me personally, whenever I factor, I want my x squared term to be positive. So I would go the direction of moving 2 terms over to keep my positive 2x squared. The other, if you are bound to determine you want to move that 2x squared, that's fine. Then multiply everything by a negative when you get done. Okay? But I'm going to say I'm going to keep my positive 2x squared. So to move a minus 9x, I'm going to add 9x. To move a plus 5, I'm going to subtract 5. So I'm going to add 9x and subtract 5 on the left. So I'm going to have the equation 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0. Okay. Now what?
You have to find a product of negative 5 and a sum.
I half agree. Paul said a product of negative 5 and a sum of 9. And I half agree. Why do I only half agree?
No idea.
You have to do the 2 times the negative 5.
Yeah, okay, guys. So, first problem we did. It was 1x squared, wasn't it?
I slept a little bit.
I know, we've slept a couple times since Friday. I gotcha. And I gave you no lead in. I gave you no hints, okay? I just said, what do we need to do? So, okay, let's back up. We didn't ask it on either question out loud. Don't forget your first step. Is there a GCF? Unfortunately, 2, 9, and negative 5 don't have something they all divide by. Okay, so then here's the deal, guys. There's an A value there, isn't there? When there's that A value, we have to use product of A times C, which in this case is 2 times negative 5. So I'm going to need a product of negative 10. Your sum is still the B value, the middle term. That was good. That's why I was willing to half agree with Paul. Okay, what numbers multiply to be negative 10 and add to be 9?
9. Wait, I always get those mixed up.
You're not the only one.
It'd be negative 1 and
Can we agree there?
10.
1 times 10 is 10. 10 minus 1 can be 9, right? In order to multiply to be a negative, I need a positive and a negative. In order to add to be positive, my smaller number is negative. Okay, what do I do with this negative 1 and 10?
Usually still there. Wait, parentheses.
What?
Your parentheses up.
Don't do our parentheses yet. Here, I'll give you a hint, guys. My final answers are not positive 1 and negative 10. This is not put these in the parentheses and then set each parentheses equal to 0. Because it's product of AC.
Okay, so you put 2x minus 1 plus 10
Yeah.
plus 5.
We're going to take these two right here and we're going to use them to split the middle term. Does this sound familiar? I know you've slept hopefully at least 3 times since I last saw you. That's my hope. Right? Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night? So I'm kind of hoping you've slept 3 times since I last saw you. Okay, so 9x is going to split into either minus 1x plus 10x or plus 10x minus 1x. Your choice. It doesn't matter. I'm going to say minus 1x plus 10x. Your first and last terms carry down. So I'm carrying down 2x squared. I'm carrying down minus 5. And since we're solving an equation, we're going to carry down that equals 0 because we don't want to lose it and forget that we're solving. Okay. I have 4 terms here, yes? I take those 4 terms and cut them in half. Okay? GCF of the first half. What do 2x squared minus 1x both divide by? 1x, right? 1 is the number, but they both have an x in common, yes?
Yep.
Now, if you want a visual, basically we're going to divide both of these terms by x. You don't have to write that visual there if you don't want to, though. Importantly, we're factoring that x out, so put it out front. So I factor the x out. 2x squared divided by x is 2x minus 1x divided by x is minus 1, right? You have to put something there. You don't get to leave it blank. Now, repeat the process on the last 2 terms. 10x minus 5. What do they both divide by? 5. Any x? No. 10x is positive, so we'll keep it positive. Okay. Now, before you write what remains, put a, what are we dividing by? We're dividing by a plus 5, yes? So put the plus 5. Now parentheses. 10x divided by 5 is 2x. Minus 5 divided by 5 is 1. And officially, this is still equals 0. Okay. Good news is my parentheses matched. We talked about that on Friday, right? Parentheses matching. That's good. So what I'm looking for right now is the statement of parenthesis times parenthesis equals 0. One of those parentheses is what?
2x minus 1.
The matching 2x minus 1s. Okay, so we're going to pull a representative 2x minus 1 from both of those. And then what else is there? The remaining GCFs of x plus 5. Okay, am I done?
No.
No?
No. Officially, what do we have to do?
Find your x intercept.
How?
Plug 0.
No.
Just set.
You guys
Yeah. What we did right here, set each factor equal to 0. And I'm obviously going to be moving over here to do this. So I'm going to have 2x minus 1 equals 0 and
x plus 5.
x plus 5 equals 0. 2x minus 1. Watch it, you got 2 steps here, don't you?
So you have to add the 1 over
So we're going to add the 1.
divided by 2.
So 2x equals 1. Divide by 2, and x is 1/2. If it's x plus 5,
X minus.
subtract 5, you've got x equals negative 5. So 2 solutions, 1/2 and negative 5. Okay, so this is where you have to be careful. In this case, where my answers, my factors, they weren't, were they? Okay, so that's where you have to keep in mind. Just because you get a or just your product and sum, that's what I meant. Are my answers my product and sum values? No. Just because you find those values does not mean you're done. Okay, next one.
I just
Unless you have a question. I just know we need to practice these. X squared plus 8x minus 3 equals 17.
subtract 17.
And why am I subtracting 17?
You have to have equal to 0.
Okay, before I can start anything, has to be equal to 0. I did not pick the color I thought I picked. Okay. So, x squared plus 8x
Minus.
minus 3 minus 17 is minus 20 equals 0. Okay. Officially, we should check for a GCF. Is there one? No. Okay, what are your thoughts on this problem about factoring it?
Find a sum of 8x, product of
Can I agree with them this time?
negative 8. It's that x squared is 1.
Yeah, okay. Always stop and notice what type of x squared do I have? And I have a 1x squared, yes? So if this is a 1x squared, then we can just do straight product and sum. And what's that going to mean on my next step? I'm going to have 2 parentheses, yes? Okay. Now, with that in mind, multiplying to be negative 20, adding to be 8. And if you're stuck, can you make a list?
Yeah, 2.
1 and 20, 2 times 10, 3 doesn't go, 4 times 5. Don't be afraid to make that list, right? And I always go numerical order. 1, 2, 3 doesn't work, 4, and then 5's right there.
There you go. 2, 10.
Maybe negative 4, negative 5, too.
What's that supposed to mean?
Except that what is 4 plus 5?
Negative 4. Oh, you're right.
There's only one set that works. To my knowledge, there's always only one set that works. As much as we think there might be 2 sometimes, due to basic little math mistakes. So, okay, so because it was x squared, I can go ahead and say that x squared is
X minus.
x and x, yes? Values in those are
X minus 2.
x minus 2, x plus 10. Am I done? Are my answers negative 2 and 10?
No.
No. What are we doing now?
You drop them down to x minus 2 equals 0. And you add 2 if I get positive.
Okay, so set each part equal to 0, yes? Set each factor equal to 0. So this is an easier one. If it's x minus 2, I'm going to have an answer of 2. If it's x plus 10, I'm going to have an answer of negative 10. Answers of 2 and negative 10. I feel like my page is getting kind of messy here. Okay, one more. 2x squared equals 3x plus 2. What are your thoughts about solving?
You gotta multiply the AC. So,
First, we have to go to 0.
So before I can do any type of factoring step, the equation does have to be equal to 0, one way or the other.
So you subtract your 3x.
Yeah. If you want to, you could subtract the 2x squared, but then I'm going to suggest that you multiply everything by a negative. I prefer to go the route of I'm going to keep my 2x squared positive as it is. To move the positive 3x, I subtract 3x. To move the plus 2, I minus 2. So we're going to have the 2x squared, and we're going to have to subtract 3x and subtract 2 from it. So 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 equals 0.
Yep.
Is there a
GCF.
GCF? Is there something that they all divide by? No. So, what kind of product do I need?
-4.
Okay. You guys with them?
Yep.
Product of -4 because it's AC, so it's 2 times -2. And that's because this time we're back to having an A value, right? So that's why I'm doing product of AC. A sum of -3. Well, what has to multiply to be 4? We're going to have to use what numbers? Okay. I'm going with 1 and 4 is what I knew.
I do 4.
If it multiplies to be a negative, one of each sign. If it adds to be negative, larger number, negative. So plus 1 minus 4. What am I doing with that plus 1 minus 4?
You're split.
You're splitting that middle term, aren't we? How do you guys want to split it? You want to say plus 1x minus 4x or minus 4x plus 1x?
-4.
You want to start with minus 4x? Okay. So if I put the minus 4x first, and then we're going to put the plus 1x. Bring your initial term down of 2x squared. Bring your last term down of minus 2 is still equal 0. Okay, I've got 4 terms. And officially, guys, I always forget to say this. This is factoring by grouping. If you're ever asked to factor by grouping, which we'll review at a later point, I think. But it's taking 4 terms, splitting it in half. Okay. 2x squared minus 4x. GCF, what can those terms divide by?
2.
2 and x, right? Your first 2 terms will always have an x in common. If not, you've got a problem. I'll go ahead and put the visual in here. You don't have to show this piece, but if we're dividing by 2x, I'm going to put 2x out front. 2x squared divided by 2x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. X squared divided by x makes it x. Minus 4x divided by 2x. So minus 4 divided by 2 is minus 2. X's cancel. Okay. 1x minus 2. What do they both divide by? Right, 1. You have to give me an answer. You can't say nothing. If all else fails, everything always divides by 1. So now I'm going to put, don't leave this blank. What am I dividing by? A 1. Now, when I divide by 1, 1x divided by 1 is still 1x or x. Minus 2 divided by 1,
2.
still 2. Equals 0. You have to put that plus 1, though, for this next step. I need my 2 factors.
X minus 2 to represent.
Okay, x minus 2 is the factor in common there. And 2x plus 1. Officially, my equation is still equal to 0, so what are we doing with these both of these parts now? Set them equal to 0. X minus 2 equals 0, and 2x plus 1 equals 0. Sorry, that was some crazy looking 0. Okay, if it's x minus 2, you're going to add 2. If it's 2x plus 1, you're going to start off by subtracting 1. 2x is equal to negative 1, and then divide by 2, and x is negative 1/2. I have no idea what Savas is going to want in terms of fractions or decimals. I really don't, guys. So read the directions is what I can say there. If it says, you know, integer or fraction, you can't put the decimal. Okay? Sometimes it doesn't specify.
So
I was going to try and get one more in.
No.
Those are word problems and stuff.
Problems and stuff.
Please don't.
I cannot, I don't know, I'm so tired.
I think Marco
I'm like
used
this
to
and
quit hitting
all.
golf balls.
So,
You know how high it goes.
so that means that's going to leave us 4 problems for tomorrow.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Yeah, we can do it.
Now,
Next Monday.
here's the deal. What are you going to do in the meantime then?
Homework.
You're going to get started in the homework
Yeah.
Yeah.
and use some of these factoring skills that we've just talked about, because here's the deal. We're not going to sit for the next 8 minutes and do nothing.
I've never sit and do nothing.
If I stop here, which I'm willing to do, and then we'll talk about the word problems and the other piece tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can also give you guys want to take a peek at your test that I keep forgetting to show you?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly, which test. I can also now get your work going. Okay, we'll pick up tomorrow. Homework is out there and available, so you can get started on it. Anything that says factor or solve, are you ready to do?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The word problems, can you skip over them until we talk about them tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.